This is the fabric that's going on the cornice. Now if this was a much bigger cornice, I would be seaming the fabric. I'd be putting one seam on this to continue it, and then on this side I would continue it with a second seam. Never put a seam in the middle. So if this is going to take more than one width of fabric, always put one seam here and one seam here. That way it doesn't catch your eye. You don't want to put a seam directly in the center of the cornice because it'll definitely catch your eye. So having said that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this fabric upside down. I'm also paying attention to the centering. And let me show you this real quick. Centering is going to be important on this cornice. And the other thing you want to do is find the center of your fabric. And you can simply do that by folding your fabric in half. Give it a little crease if you have to. And let's see. The center of the fabric is right here. This is my center point. So what I'm going to do, and this is also the top because there's an arrow telling which is the top. Not that you couldn't turn this around, you could. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little notch at the top. Like so. Just a little notch right there. And that tells me it's the center. And then I'm going to take my cornice. And I'm going to measure, the cornice is 45, half of 45 is 22 and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this at 22 and a half on the top. That way I'm ensured that my fabric is going to be centered. Now I'm going to take my fabric again and put it on top. Now what I want my focal point to be is this one long strip of these oblong diamonds, you might want to call them, or rectangles. So I want to find approximately the center of that. And that's not too bad. Now, I'm going to flip this over. Like so. And luckily I can still see the print on this side. I'm going to make sure I have it where I want it. Then I'm going to start over on my left side. If you've ever watched me do a cornice before, I like to work left to right. Okay. I'm going to take my fabric like this. I'm not going to just staple it on. I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to push this padding. And this is something you want fairly tight. Put a couple staples in. And I'm going to keep working my way up. Now I'm also eyeballing the design on the back side of it. And you can see right here, I'm trying to keep this straight. And then over here, see if I can get you a little closer. Whoop. You can see where this is, and this is coming down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the padding and the fabric to keep it all level. That's how I know if I'm keeping it straight. I always check back, see? That's what it looks like. Give it a staple. Now I'm going to go over to the other side. And again, what I'm looking at here is I can follow this stripe right here to make sure that I'm pretty on target with keeping my design straight. So you always look for little hints like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now I'm going to flip it over. Now the reason why I like to work left to right and on the back side, because now the fabric's taut this way. So once it's taut that way, just make it a little easier so you can pick it up. Now I'm going to take a look at the design again. How I'm looking. And I'm looking pretty good. Now again, we're going to be working left to right with this. Let me back this off just a little bit. Okay. Fabric almost makes you dizzy. Now I could be taking a tape measure and measuring and seeing exactly where the diamond is, but I can pretty much eyeball it. You can take a tape measure if you want. That's up to you. I'm not going to. Now, working with your staple gun and your hand, you're going to press the fabric down. You're going to press the background down, and then you're just going to hold that fabric ever so gently. But you don't want to just leave it. You don't want to just staple it like this. You want to make sure you're pushing that background down. Holding it, stapling. That's as far as you're going to go on that side. Then you're going to come on this side and you're going to do the same thing. And the reason why I do that is because if you keep stapling here and just keep working and working, you could be shifting your fabric. It could actually be shifting it since you're moving. It can either shift this way or that way. By coming over here And then again, looking down here, you can see where that first stripe is right here on the cornice. Right here. I'm looking at that dimension right there. So I'm coming over here, I'm looking at it here. And I'm going to squish it down. Okay, that ensures me nothing shifting. Now I can go back over this side. And continue. You notice I also have this very close to the edge of the table. Just much easier than having it over here and then trying to do something like this. So keep it all the way over to the edge of your table, making it a little easier. It also helps to reload your staple gun every once in a while. You get further that way. Okay, now I'm just going to trim off just a little bit off the top because I don't need it all on here. And the way I'm doing that is I'm starting over here by the corner. Still staying on my cornice. See that, like that. Just going to get rid of some of this extra waste here I don't need. Now again, I'm over here and I'm just going to cut it like that. Now with this cut into here, I can make a 45. Just like that. Do the same thing on my other side. Now we're ready to begin the dreaded bottom. By the way, a step cornice is probably one of the most difficult to make because you have to get into those corners. And I'll explain that too, because it seems like almost an impossible task, but it's not. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm taking my hand and I am smoothing out the padding with a little pressure. Then I'm finding the inside of my cornice, being right here. You see right where this is, right here? Right that return? I'm taking my scissors and I'm putting it right against that return. And I'm cutting right into the corner. Squishing the fabric down, making sure your print looks pretty good. first one's done. That's the first step, right there. Now, as I say, I work left to right. I'm going to come over to this side. Finding the inside of my return, like so. You can't just do this because it won't actually lay in there good. So you take your scissors, and you are going to, again, do this a little flattening. Take your scissors to the inside of the return here, snip it. And this little snip goes right into the corner, right to here. I don't over snip it. I'm snipping it to the corner. Again, giving it a little pull. Okay. There we have it. Now I'm going to go back to this side. This is the hard part. As you can see, we have this little corner right in here. So what do we do here? This is what we do. With our scissors, we're going to stretch the fabric just a little bit. I'm going to put my finger right in that corner. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a 45 into the corner. So I'm not going straight, I'm not going like this, but on an angle. So I'm angling it on a 45. Right into the corner. You're saying, oh my God, you're going into the corner, the wood's going to be exposed. Don't worry about it. Okay, so now we're into the corner. And yes, that wood's going to be exposed. For now. I'm stretching my fabric. Like that. Take my stretch it. Keep your fingers into that corner. Staple it. Okay, so now that's the second one, and this right here, you're going to bend down. What you're going to do is bend it like this, and you're going to put a staple. In fact, I got to snip into this corner just a little bit more. And I'm going to put a staple right into the front, like so. Come to the back. Now you're going to say to me, look at what you did. You've got a big old gash right here where I see the wood. Yes, but look at how nice this looks. But what do we do about that? This is what we do. I have what's called a braid cord. And this is the braid cord, and this is the self fabric. And what I did is I took a zipper foot and I sewed the fabric on. Let me cut this off. This is just excess right here. Now you don't have to do this with this. You can also use a piece of welting. So I made a cornice up over here. This is the last cornice I built right here. And in this case, I used a piece of self-welt. Now you can use a piece of self-welt. Just take this fabric and cover it. Or you can take a braid cord, which they wanted this little braid cord. But what happens is, after you've got these all done, this is what's going to cover it. This is going to come into here, like so. And this is going to cover everything nicely. Although I'm actually using this braid cord. But it's the same difference. This braid cord is going to sit in here. And that is what's going to cover that. And I'll explain that in a little while when we actually do it. So, we've got this part done. Now, going back to my opposite side, I want to do the same thing on the other side of it. I'm finding that corner, taking my scissors, and I am cutting into the corner. The best I can. Then I'm smoothing this out, squishing my padding down. I'm also looking across, making sure I'm looking pretty good. How can I tell? Okay, let me show you. You see this right here? You see this line right here coming across right here? When I'm here, I've got the same line. So I know I'm doing pretty good on the fabric. This is your first cornice. You might want to use something that's solid. Something that won't matter that your print has to line up. Just a little hint there. Now I'm going to cut back into this corner just a little bit more. So we snip the corner right here. We do the same thing. I'm going to eyeball here and here, make sure it's fairly close. And I am going to go ahead and staple it down. Pressing against the padding. And then right in here, making sure I've got it snipped close enough to the corner. Much easier when you're using an air staple gun than a regular gun. But I've done both. And all I do is, you can either cut this off or staple it back here. I'm just stapling it back there. And then going back to this one. Snipping it. Into the corner. And I got one staple didn't go through. Sometimes that happens, you get a staple that didn't sit where you wanted to, just pull it back out. Okay, so now we've got this one done. Now it's time to finish the center part Okay, so that's what we have so far. Looking pretty straight across. And from here to here, got the same amount on both sides. So everything looks good. I'm liking the way it's coming out. Now we have to contend with the return. And you can see I've already snipped that corner because we've already discussed that. So we're going to staple it down. And right here, we're making a 45 into the corner, pressing the padding down. Side. Okay. Now you notice this doesn't go around all the way around the return. That's fine. We're simply going to cut most of this off. And then after we add our braid cord onto it, we're going to put a separate piece on here. And that'll hide all the staples as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim this off. Like so. I am leaving, you see that little tail right there, and all I'm going to do little corner like that. And this right here, I could cut it all the way off. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna tuck it into the cornice like so. Staple it in. We have a lining that's going on here that'll cover everything. So we're not worried about it. And again, just wrapping that corner in. Okay. That's what we're looking like right now. The back side, the front side of it. Now we're going to flip it over here.